Hello, this is Robert. I'm an attorney with TRP. We're tax attorneys and we handle garnishments, offering compromise, all this kind of stuff. And this is about how to stop an IRS wage garnishment, also known as releasing an IRS wage garnishment. Some people call it a wage levy as well. Pretty much it's all the same thing. And we'll get to the details of how you actually do it. I've seen some guides and information on here, but none of it really seems that thorough. So thought we'd just give you the info. Um, Now, the ways to stop an IRS wage garnishment kind of vary based on the balance and whether or not you qualify for an offer in compromise. So, if you qualify for an offer in compromise, that usually means your income and your expenses are going to get close to almost zeroing out at the end of the month, meaning based on the IRS financial standards and some of your expenses, at the end of the month, you have almost nothing left over or nothing. Um, if you're nowhere near an offer in compromise, things change, and the balance also has an effect. So, these ways of stopping it kind of vary based on those situations. On top of that, there's also two other ways we're not mentioning here because sometimes they just end up being more of a headache, and that's doing a CDP hearing. And also, if you can submit the offer in compromise, and when they start processing the offer, that agent can sometimes lift the wage garnishment that way. But then you're waiting, and it takes too long. These are the most quickest, effective ways that we have found to do it, and this is the way that we do it. Okay, first off, if you owe less than $50,000 and you're not going to get an offer in compromise, meaning you make too much money or you have too many assets, you just request a fresh start payment plan and it's done. Second, you owe more than 50 grand and do not qualify for an offer in compromise, request a payment plan or currently non-collectible status based on 433F or 433A. And you can also request an 84-month payment plan if the balance is under 100,000 without the forms, but they're going to file liens either way using the forms or not using the forms. Third way, qualify for an offer in compromise. So you qualify, you just submit non-collectible status using one of the other two forms. Liens will be filed, but you get that garnishment off fast. Fourth is request an extension to full pay when you plan on paying it off. Sometimes they'll just take it off for you. Caveat here, in most cases, you also need to file missing tax returns. If the IRS already filed the returns for you, they call these substitute for tax returns. You do not need to file those years to get the garnishment off. Perfect example. Okay, right now it's 2018. We have people that call in and they owe from 2007, or no, say they haven't done any tax returns since 2007. It's very likely that 2007, 2008, and 2009, and for some people 2010, the IRS has done a substitute for return. So they go ahead and they compile the data and do a tax return for you based on what they've received. Usually that, especially if you're self-employed, that ends up being a higher number than what the true amount you owe really is. However, to purposes of releasing the garnishment, you don't need to get those tax returns done. You need to get the missing ones. So if you haven't filed since 2007 and they've done 7 to 10 for you, well, you may need to file 11 to 17. And you can call the IRS and you can ask them which ones you want to file. The phone number and stuff we'll get here on the next page. That's just the note on substitute for returns. Now we're going to go step by step. So less than 50,000 in debt, and there's no offer possibility. If your financials do not make sense for an offer in compromise because your income is too high or too much equity in assets, good chance you're stuck paying it back. The fastest way to release an IRS wage levy is to do the following. A, call the collection line at 800-829-7650. You're just going to request a payment plan over 72 months and pick a day of the month you prefer. So if the balance between 25 and 50,000, the payment plan has to be by direct debit. If it's under 25,000, you actually do it by check. I recommend just do it by direct debit anyway. It's just easier and you're done. You can when you call and you talk to the agent, you can actually download and have the form pre-filled and call them out, or you can just say, hey, mail me the forms and do that. And usually they'll just let you do that and release it all and it's over. No new liens are going to be filed with this method if there haven't been filed already. So, you may already have liens on file. If they are, they're going to stay there. But if they're not going to file any new ones because of this, but if there's no liens, you're avoiding all the liens. Here's the other thing. Have your employer's payroll fax number ready. So this is pretty much the case in all of these scenarios. This way you can call in and say, hey, please fax the payroll levy release to such and such. And really, you want to call your payroll people the next day after they supposedly fax it and make sure that they receive it, because sometimes that is an issue as well. You can ask relation to release the garnishment at the end and put attention payroll, the name of the person in charge at your employer. But if you don't know what it is, just put attention payroll. It almost always gets there. Just call your payroll people and make sure it's processed. Other scenario, okay? You owe more than $50,000 and there's no offer possibility. When there's not an offer and compromise possibility, but the balance is over $50,000, here's what you do to stop the wage levy. So You're under 100, but over 50, you can do an 84-month payment plan. It's very similar to that same 72-month we had before, except they do file liens. This does not require a financial statement, and it's usually a pretty big payment per month. But if someone's high income, this sometimes is the easiest option. The other option is you can pay the balance down below 50 grand and then put it in a payment plan. If there's no liens filed yet, that will stop the liens from being filed. But really, when you have garnishments, a lot of time liens are already there. B, you have low income, but assets that make you not qualify for an offer. So, you have paid off house or something that we've actually had people still get offers with paid off houses, but a lot of people won't. And it kind of depends on the situation. You have things that are making you not qualify, but it's not income. So your income zeroes out after your expenses, according to the numbers, but there's some asset that gets you, that doesn't work. A lot of the time, currently non-collectible is going to be the best option. Or if you have a very low available income at the end of the month and you can't really afford the offer amounts, a partial pay plan will work. Either of these is just tolling the statute until this debt expires. If you just search IRS said dates on Google, you'll find our page, and it'll explain a lot of that in detail. That's really something to consider with offer and compromise anyway, that most of these firms do not even evaluate. And it's actually kind of scary because sometimes you have debts that are really close to expiring and people submit a settlement, and that is the wrong thing to do. You want the debt to expire and then submit it. There's some lien intricacies with that we could explain in detail to you. But anyway, that's another issue. So here we go. Form 33F is typically used in your case if it's IRS automated collections. Okay, so if it's not assigned to an individual collector, it's typically an automated collections. If you're in collections, that's where it is. So you're usually going to use 433F with them. I've seen them ask for 433A a couple of times on really high balance cases, but usually it's 433F. Okay. Form 433A is typically used in your case to assign to a revenue officer, and that's when you owe usually a lot of money. Most of those cases are a few $100,000. It was 100. I've heard they've switched it to 250, but most of the ones I see, you seem to be a few $100,000. And in those cases, you're usually going to be using 433A. Okay. And there's other thing is a lot of cases where you're over 100, the case over 100,000, you're also going to be dealing with collections. Sometimes it gets assigned to a special unit in collections, and you're usually going to be giving them an F. They may ask for an A, but almost every revenue officer is going to ask for an A form. I always just call them first if it's assigned to a revenue officer and ask them because you want to get it done. If you're sending stuff to the revenue officer and they're being really slow, call and ask for a manager. Fax everything to them. Always make sure you follow up. The problem with the revenue officer is they can leave for a little bit and your garnishment is sitting there and you're waiting on this one person to do something. The good thing about automated collections is you can call them right away and they can do something. So if you're not getting a response to revenue officer right away, you want to try to call that same office and see if you can find somebody else there. One trick that we actually do that's kind of fast on this is look at the phone number that's assigned and then change the last digit. And sometimes you'll find someone else in the office that's quicker and they can get to a manager or something and you can get this done quickly. Same thing, payroll fax number. You're going to send it to them, get it off, same as last time. Okay, so you owe more than $50,000 and there's no offer. Okay, to get the garnishment off with that method A or B, which is the balance under 100 or the non-collectible, and the case is assigned to a revenue officer, call them and request a payment plan spread over 84 months. If you're doing letter B, fax them all the paperwork, then call them. Usually they want 433A. I already covered this instead of F. If it's in automated collections, key point on automated collections here, call 800-829-7650. I notice a lot of people aren't putting this information in the video. It's like it's some kind of secret. That is the collections number. It is not always the right collection number for every single case, but call that number and you will get to someone on the phone that will transfer you to the right area. I also recommend calling, it's usually better to call later in the day. It usually seems like less of a hold time. When we have us do your case, we actually use a program that gets you to the front of the line. It's called Call-In Queue. It's for like tax professionals. If your tax professional is not using that, they're probably just wasting your time billing you too much. Be ready to fax the forms, okay, when you're calling automated collections. This is all for all these cases. If you're ready to fax it, it's not going to take as long. If you have to mail it to them, it's not getting released before your next paycheck. You're going to wait for them to process it. They're going to take forever. It might take months. They may even send a letter asking for more info. You want to do this over the phone and get it done. I know it's kind of a weird thing to have a fax by you. It's very 1990s, but find somewhere where you can fax it or scan it up and be ready to e-fax it. You can use an e-fax service. So you qualify for an offer and compromise. Now, Some places and some firms, what they do is they'll just submit the offer in compromise right away, and very often it gets processed and the garnishment released. Problem is, how long, getting them to start processing it sometimes just takes 30 days for them to even send a letter back to you. So we don't want our clients to wait that long. So the best thing to do is put it in, non-collectible status. Because if you qualify for an offer in compromise, you're going to qualify for non-collectible status, because non-collectible status is effectively a $0 payment plan. And really, most of the time, all you got to do is fill out form 433F and call 800-829-7650. Have the form ready. They may or may not ask for supporting documentation. Pretty much the determination of whether they usually do or not is they look at your last year's tax information. And if that information is pretty close to what you're telling them, they're usually not asking for any updated information. Now, you're not supposed to lie, tell the truth, but that is how they typically determine whether or not they are going to ask you for supporting docs. I would have supporting documentation available for anything like child support, alimony received, alimony paid, court-ordered payments, anything that's kind of out of the ordinary, child care. When you're looking at the expenses on the 433F, anything that's out of the standard ranges, you want to include proof and explain why. Okay. Extension to full pay. The IRS, this is the fourth way to do it, and this can work on any balance. I've seen it not work sometimes, but it does work a lot of the time. But I really don't like this option because it doesn't really resolve it. The other options resolve it, and at the same time, it's there's some closure at these. This is not a closure if you're not really paying it off. This is just dragging it on. Okay. IRS grants 120-day extension of full pay for cases not in collections and a 60-day extension of full pay for cases that are in collections. Using this extension usually will stop an IRS wage garnishment. They'll usually release it. However, you have to tell the IRS you're planning to full pay, so technically you might be lying. You only get one of these when it is done, because when it's done, collections gets way more aggressive. So pretty much at this point in a case, if you're in early collections, you release your garnishment. Okay, you're also going to say, hey, can you? Sometimes the agent will release the garnishment, and there's other stuff that could be pending on your case. They could be wanting to issue a bank levy later or stuff. There's more than just the garnishment. So what they'll typically do is, even if you're calling in and you can't get the garnishment released right away, they'll usually put a hold on any further activity. Okay, once your extension of full pay is over, sometimes they don't give you any holds anymore. Some agents still will, some won't. They kind of think like you were extending it out on them for no good reason. So if you're using extension of full pay, it's usually better to use if you're really going to full pay it, or at least you're going to be doing a situation where you're paying the debt down below $50,000 to avoid liens, one of those kind of situations. Okay, and you only get one of these on those years, and we really want to save it for a time that it could be really used when the other options are better to release the garnishment. Those are better, and it adds some closure to it. To use this method, though, you're going to call the IRS collections line, same number, or the assigned revenue officer. If it's unknown, call collections, and sorry, we're missing a parentheses there. Request an extension of full pay and give them your payroll department fax number. Sometimes, I've seen this not always release it, and it's possible a revenue officer won't release it all the time with this. So I don't rely on this, but technically it can work. Now we got some notes on liens, and be warned about liens in general. Okay, IRS has often already filed liens when a garnishment is issued, very likely. If liens have not yet been filed, though, which sometimes is the case, doing the following will result in IRS liens. 1, setting up any payment plan with a balance over $50,000. 2, setting up any payment plan on a balance between $10,000 and $50,000 that does not pay the base tax balance off within 72 months. So anything you're doing that you think it would normally be a lien-free plan, when you're going and like setting a payment plan that's lower by submitting a 433F or 433A that is lower than the 72-month plan, you're going to get a lien. Okay, currently non-collectible status. Okay, on any balance technically over $10,000, you will get a lien. Sometimes IRS files a lien, and technically they actually can file a lien on less, but they rarely do. Sometimes IRS files a lien while an offer compromise is pending, but they typically do not. It happens every once in a long while. We see it. Our guesstimate of is about 1 in 50 cases that it happens, and it seems to happen later in the case, closer to the time that the appeal was done. Like after you file an appeal, it seems like usually after that is the most likely time they may file a lien. And the other thing I would say is there's some cases where the lien is already being processed, like before the offer compromise is really getting processed. So you may have a little delay in processing and it's already out. However, in some cases, a lot of people would rather just, you're in the rare instance where garnishment is there, but a lien has not been submitted. Some people just want to submit the offer and compromise right away because they rather deal with the garnishment for however much longer and then hopefully get it released when the offer and compromise starts processing and then settle without liens. Just keep in mind, IRS reserves the right to file liens while the offer and compromise is pending, and they tell you that on the letter. Good news is liens can be released and often withdrawn completely. So the difference is this: a release shows that it was satisfied on your credit report, okay, and it comes off the house, comes off the car, whatever. But withdrawn shows as if it never existed at all, which is even better. And you won't get a withdrawal in this situation, okay? Sometimes you'll get liens that were filed with multiple years. We saw a case that this happened, okay? So they had multiple years filed on a lien, and some of those years had expired, okay? So the expired years are not going to qualify for that. I'm sorry. What happened is they had liens that were expired and not expired, and they would not take off the ones that didn't expire because they said it was on the same lien filing. Okay, the other thing we had was, in general, things that are expired are not going to get a withdrawal. And then let me correct myself in the last one. I meant a withdrawal. So when there's liens that are filed together and some of them are expired and some of them are settled, you may not get a withdrawal. Okay. Second, if you have liens that are just expired, those are not getting a withdrawal. Those are just going to get a release. And, there may be exceptions there. There may be a change on that in the future, but that's just what it's like right now. Notes on liens can continued. Search how to withdraw an IRS lien, TRP, and you'll find our webpage on how to do that. It's pretty easy. The good news is about IRS liens is they do not actually take anything unless you sell it. They'll show up on stuff, but it's not actually taking stuff. The IRS really never takes anybody's main residence unless it's like a crazy, insane place that's possible. But, I've seen people that have a couple $1 million places and they owe tax debt and IRS is not taking their place. They will take rental properties and stuff like that if you don't pay them at all. And I have seen that. And if you own one place and then you rent another place, they will take that one place that you own as well. I've also seen that. We advised a client to move back to his place and he didn't, and they took it. And, he was renting somewhere else and then he ended up with no property. And unfortunately, that's what happens. This was way late in the stage when we came in the case. We were not able to save it earlier. Pretty much we start early enough, there's really going to be no home taking. Or you start early enough, even if you have rental properties, because you're just going to get it in some type of status that it's over. And if you get into one of these statuses and it's over, that's it. You're paying the payment or you're non-collectible, whatever it is, and it sits. This is the thing. Once an offer and compromise is paid off, liens are released, then some later can be withdrawn too. That's pretty much the basics on that. Here's the main thing. Just get it done or have someone do it, okay? The key to getting this wage garnishment off is taking action. Either do it yourself or get someone to do it for you. A lot of people just sit there. They're waiting to get more money. They're waiting to do this. Just go on it. You can call us. It's 888-5154-TAX. If you owe 20 grand or more, that's kind of more the case we typically help with. Or you can go to our website, trp.tax, contact us on the contact page or hit up our live chat. It does require some documentation on your behalf, even if you pay someone else to do it, whether that's us or somebody else. There's people that call in. I explain that very clearly. We'll need some paperwork from you to get this going. And then they start and think, oh, what am I doing? Well, there's paperwork that is required. And if you don't do it, it's just not going to happen. And the missing tax return is going to require some paperwork as well. What we can order from you is, 1099s that were reported, and we can order W-2 information that was reported, gambling wins are reported, other stuff reported. We just we can't order all the expenses, because they don't have that. But we can order that information, which makes it a lot easier. And a lot of people don't know that. And a lot of firms also sometimes don't order that for the people. But that's just another thing that we can order for you to make it easier. If not, you can call the IRS. You can't hire somebody, call the IRS yourself. Order all, say I want wage and income transcripts, and records of account, or you can actually just order a record of account for every year. That includes the account transcript and the wage and income information. Just order that for all the years. You can get the information put together and file it. We strongly do not recommend hiring any tax relief firm that is not actually a law firm. These things tend to close a lot. This has happened a long time. Most of the people in this industry have worked at more than one place. Many have worked at 3 or 4 or more. Examples of places: American Tax Relief, gone. Nationwide Tax Relief, I used to work there, gone. J.K. Harris, gone. Blue Tax, gone. These companies just come and go, come and go. And also, if you look up any of their ratings, they're terrible for the most part. If you can't afford help, just get it done. Just go ahead and do it. Start the process. We've explained everything here. The forms are not that difficult. Just do the very best you can and just get it in. If you really can't afford help too and you're really broke, your case is usually even easier. Just do it. Don't wait for money. Just get it in. And I got to say the same thing with offer and compromise too. We have people that say, I was waiting till I made some good money so I can finally settle with the IRS. And that's just not the thing to do. We have either people can pay for attorney or not. That's fine. But when it comes to the settlement, that's not the thing to do. Just prepare it the best you can and just get it in. You can look at our website for a guide on how to do it. The reason is this. If you're single and you're waiting until, now I got a job making $80,000 and I'm one person and I owe $60,000, well, guess what? You're not getting a settlement anymore. When you made $20,000 or $30,000, yeah, you're probably going to get it. So just submit it, get it in. If you have someone else that you can borrow the money from to pay someone else to do it, sure, do it. It's probably worth it. But if you can't, just send it in. And the information's here. Go to trp.tax. You'll see tax help guide on the top. And we're going to be putting up pretty much, there's most of the information on how to settle IRS, how to settle California, how to settle New York. It's all there. Just get it in. And if you have any questions and you owe $20,000 or more and you're looking for help, you can reach us at 888-515-4829. Again, that's 888-515-4829. If you have any questions related to the video or just basic questions, you can ask them below, and we'll get an answer for you. This will be checked every few days to answer questions. Thanks for watching and have a great week.